Should we listen to it?
Yeah, let's give it a little listen.
Yeah. And the reason why you're still playing together after, 10, 15, 20 years is because of that initial connection and idea of like you're just so focused on each other and it means something. So Pucker, the new record by myself and Charlie, is all my music. And this is the first time Charlie and I have made a record of my music. We've made a bunch of records with his music, and we did TJ Kirk. And last year we put out a record called Not Getting Behind is the New Getting Ahead, which is his music. And right after we made that record, and right after it came out, we were on the phone, and he's like, hey, I had this idea about doing another record of your music, and I had the same idea. For me, making record is about writing music, and writing music that I feel really strongly about. So that's when the sort of the pressure of the whole thing for me. And when you're dealing with a bass player and a guitar player, and myself on drums, like there are a lot of possibilities. But with Charlie's instrument, it was a little more challenging. Not because of the limitations, it's more because of like there's a thing he has, and I wanted to make sure that I honored that.
Yeah.
So we're just inserting that after that melody.
Yeah.
When I moved to California, one of the things in my mind was to meet a really interesting guitar player that was doing something that nobody else was doing. And I mean, there's Charlie.
Just going from those two positions.
When we met in '93, we started playing together and playing in duo, and then in his trio, and then TJ Kirk, and then touring and making records. And there's been a lot that's happened in that 20 years. When you're younger, and we talk about this a lot actually today, what you're listening to and what you're aspiring to musically that evolves over time. And there's certain kinds of music which you're interested in, and there's certain kinds of music you think you're interested in. It sounds weird, but like, that stuff that's happening that you're like, oh, I have to play like that. That's the thing. That's it. And then as you get older, you just start losing. You start really finding yourself even more and realizing who you are. And so back then there was a lot of exploring. Living in this house where we each had an apartment next to each other. So we'd be over, playing music, putting on like, hey man, check this out. And I was kind of into, the guitar players of the day, and he'd be like, yeah, that's cool, and then he's like, but check this out. And he puts in this record and he plays this track, and I go, yeah, that's my grandfather. And he's like, what? That's not your grandfather. That is my grandfather. Satan Takes a Holiday, Tony Gattuso, John Cali, Pioneers of Jazz Guitar. That's my grandfather. So my grandfather wrote me this song called Scott's Tune. I was on vacation, and I'd given Charlie the music, and he calls me up, and he's like, hey man, I don't think we can do this song. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, there's all these parts. And if you look I sent him the piano chart, which is 3 staves, and it has like a bass, there's a bass line, then there's a comping line and a melody line. And Charlie was looking at it, and it's very specifically written out, every note, everything. So Charlie was trying to like learn all these parts. So I got home, and I immediately went to my studio, opened the music, and I look at it, and I just like started laughing. I called him up, I was like, dude, listen, here's the deal. You got to think of it like a standard melody, chords, and that's how, there's an arrangement for this larger band. And so he's like, oh yeah. I mean, he really wanted to honor my grandfather's writing, he just really, that's to me what was totally behind it. So about 2 hours later, he called me up. He's like, dude, check it out. And he started playing for me over the phone. He's like, I got it. my grandfather would totally love it, and so it means a lot to me that not only that to record it, but to record it with Charlie.